Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new and another episode of Midnight Sports Today. I'm Brock, and I'm joined with a very special guest, Sean Eyman. He is a diehard University of Hawaii football fan, just like myself. Not only does he share the same passion, he has been heavily involved in the Hawaii football Twitter community, and he's had the opportunity to witness the team practice live. So we're going to be talking with him about the current state of University of Hawaii football, along with our continued series talking about just the program in general. As you may know, at the end of these series of talking to fans, former players, coaches, etc., I'm going to release a top 100 list of the greatest University of Hawaii football players of all time. In the meantime, I've gotten together with guys just like Sean, and we have made our all-time Warrior football team. We're going to jump into that a little bit later. First, let's get started with the current team led by first-year head coach Timmy Chang. So, Sean, how are you doing? How have you been? And what do you think about the team?
Aloha, Brock. Thanks for having me on. This is fun. This is good stuff.
No, thank you so much for being here. And you have been one of the few people I can rely on in having a bird's eye view of the team. And you've attended some of the live practices, a new tradition Coach Chang has implemented. What have you thought about what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm happy with what I've seen. I think Coach Chang has done a great job since he's come in. He was really hired under not ideal circumstances. He was hired super late in the recruiting period, and he had to kind of throw together his staff. But I'm really pleased with what he's done to kind of resurrect the Hawaii, the culture, what it means to play for Hawaii. That's in this first season, that's mostly what I'm looking for him to improve that. The winning will come later.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for some of the people that may not have some knowledge on the University of Hawaii football program, Timmy Chang as a player was a stud at local Hawaii high school powerhouse St. Louis. And he decided to come to the University of Hawaii at a time when the program was in essentially a state of disrepair. They were just coming off an 0-12 season and on the worst run under Von Oppen. June Jones was just getting started. And he, like other players, decided to commit to the University of Hawaii and was a part of that change in the early 2000s. Obviously, everyone knows what happened with Todd Graham. He's a part of the change now. Timmy Chang, as a coach, was at Nevada for a very long time under head coach Jay Norvell. He moved with him to Colorado State, and then, like Sean said, was hired under some really horrible circumstances. Like he said, really late in the recruiting cycle, just to start off with, really late in the coaching carousel hiring cycle to bring in assistants, and also the fact that there was the June Jones controversy, which we touched on before. With all that being said, Sean, talking about the coaches he's brought in, he's dived into a lot of local talent. Obviously, his OC, Ian Shoemaker, is from Eastern Washington, a hire I like a lot. But he's kept it local with his defensive coordinators, his staff, brought in guys like Roman Sapolu, who has the connection to his father, Jesse, Chris Brown, Damien graduate, and also University of Hawaii linebacker legend, and guys like that, keeping Abraham Eli Mimian. Do you think that having a island-based staff is going to help the program in the future?
It's almost too local. It's almost too local. It's seriously. But yeah, I think he's got a good staff. I'm pleasantly surprised with what he was able to throw together. Yeah, Shoemaker should put up some points. I'm excited to see what this offense is going to look like. Going to practice, they were throwing the kitchen sink out there. They were running RPO, lots of run and shoot sets, 4 or 5 wide receivers. They play smash mouth. They throw to the tight end. So a lot of different looks. So I'm excited to see what it looks like when we play Vanderbilt. 96 days or so.
Yes, I know Vanderbilt is coming up quite quickly, and as you have seen, Sean, and I grew up watching the run and shoot offenses of the June Jones and how exciting they are. Also considering the fact that Chang also has the air raid philosophy under Colorado State and former Nevada OC Matt Mumme, and just the air, it's kind of spread offense philosophy under Jay Norvell as well. It is definitely exciting to see. One of the two players I'm very excited to see is one, of course, who's going to win the quarterback battle. I'm really high on Braden Shager, so I hope he does. But another player I'm really excited to see is Dedrick Parsons. I thought he took a really big step up last year as a running back. In Hawaii with a running game is always fun to see that supplement their pass offense. Is there a player on the team that you are looking forward to watching this year, Sean?
Let's see. Oh, maybe not a player that's currently on the team. Maybe possibly a player or two that might come back. I don't know. That's hopeful thinking. I
Yes,
won't say their names out loud, but I think the most people in the know who I'm talking about.
exactly. Yeah. Just to kind of catch everybody up on that, obviously we know about the mass exodus in transfers under former head coach Todd Graham. There have been rumors, and I can't say names either, but due to some kind of loophole in NCAA or something like that, players aren't able to come back to Hawaii. And it would be fun to kind of see them get a second chance under a new system, especially some of the offensive guys, to see what they can do on the field. But we've talked about the current enough. Now it's time to get into what we came for, which is the all-time University of Hawaii football team. Going to go over the criteria real quick, and then I'm going to mention Sean's team. So the criteria for this all-time team is that a player must have finished his career at the University of Hawaii. Players' time at the University of Hawaii is the only thing that's considered. Not a player's JUCO career, another college, or the pro career is considered. Players' position should be where they succeeded, not where they started. For example, if a player started at running back and they made their career at wide receiver, they would count as a wide receiver. Special teamers can count for both offense and defense. Hawaii is no stranger to having studs that have played multiple positions. Most notably, Chad Owens was a receiver and obviously Hawaii's greatest returner, which we'll get into, but more Scott Harding, who was punter, backup kicker, receiver, returner. He was
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, he was a Swiss Army knife. If you think Calvin Turner Jr. was a Swiss Army knife, this guy was something else. Participants, like Sean, can also include an honorable mention for anybody outside that list as well. For the team, we're going to go the top 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, top 6 pass catchers, wide receivers, tight ends, top 5 tackles, top 5 guards, top 2 centers. Center that play guard can count for guard, just to make sure that we have a fair list, because there's a lot of great guards that transitioned to center in Hawaii that exceeded at both positions. For the defense, the top 6 edge rushers, top 6 interior defensive linemen, top 5 linebackers, top 6 cornerbacks, and top 4 safeties, or top 5 safeties. Special teamers, 3 punt returners, 3 kick returners, 3 punters, and 3 kickers. And lastly, for our coaches, top 3 head coaches of all time, and then top 6 assistant coaches of all time. An assistant who became a head coach can count for both. With all that being said, let's jump right into your list. Number 1, we're going to kick it off with the quarterbacks. And number 1, he has, of course, the all-time great legend, Colt Brennan. Secondly, he has Garrett Gabriel, a name from back in the day, and a name that's popped up now because I believe Garrett is the father of current Oklahoma and former UCF quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who played his prep career at Mililani. And thirdly, we have Michael Carter, one of the stars of the option offenses of the Bob Wagner era. So let's just jump into the quarterbacks. No Timmy Chang. Why?
Why?
Yes.
Oh, so I had a love-hate relationship with Timmy. I would watch him sometimes and I was think, this guy's NFL caliber. And then there would be times where I would boo him and I would want to take away his scholarship. So he had 17,000
Yeah, something like
total.
that.
And but he also had 85 interceptions. So it was kind of like this yin and yang. And for me, I have him at 4. So yeah, it's tough, but I like Gabriel and Carter. I feel like they're more steady.
And you do bring up a very good point, because yes, Timmy Chang didn't put up great numbers, but you also got to consider the fact that throughout his playing career, he was replaced multiple times as a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Most notably was 2001 with Nick Rolovich and that incredible season Hawaii had. I believe in 2003, he was replaced by, I think, Jason Sheridan. I do have to mispronounce his name. It was split reps. Sean Withy Allen was in there as well for a bunch of that time. So it is a fair point. Michael Carter obviously was the option quarterback during that great time with Bob Wagner, leading to Hawaii's first ever WAC championship and also a win in the Holiday Bowl against Illinois. It's very interesting because he's a name that doesn't get a lot of respect or per se talked about in Hawaii circles when it comes to the great quarterback because everyone's used to the arm. Why did you want to recognize him as number 3 all time, considering the great quarterbacks Hawaii has had?
He led us to our first WAC championship. Like he was tough as nails. I think he broke his ribs in the second or third game in '92, and he said it only hurts when he breathed. So, and he played the entire year, and he took shots, and like I was there. We had season tickets, and we just watched him take blow after blow, and he just get up, and and he'd do it again the next play. That option was tough, man.
Yes.
So like, guy earned my respect. So that's why I have him. It's like with Timmy. Timmy didn't have anything like that. Like a championship run. And when I came down to ranking them, I took that into consideration too. So that's why I got. And Gabriel was the BYU killer. So.
No, definitely. Whenever you have somebody that can annihilate your arch rivals as much as Garrett Gabriel did, you got to include him on that list. Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks that didn't make your top 3 or your honorable mention, which is 3 names I want to bring up. Is Mcdonald, who was the most recent great. Bryant Muniz, who was an absolute stud in 2010, 2011 until injuries, unfortunately, took him out. And then obviously he graduated. And then the last one would be Nick Rolovich, who had that great season in 2021. Did those names ever come into your mind and ranking them within the top 3 or in the honorable mention, or did you just feel that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I had Chang 4 and then Rolovich 5. But, I mean, that role that Rolovich went on the last 3 games of his senior year was just like that. Nobody, not even Brennan, could touch Rolovich's numbers in those 3 games. So it's crazy. Yeah, he was on fire at the end of that year.
Yes, he was. For some of the people that may not know, Nick Rolovich defeated both number 18 Fresno State, led by Derek Carr at that time, and also undefeated up to that point, number 12 BYU in his final game ever, which he passed for 8 passing touchdowns in a 72-45 victory. So
yeah, I think he went like 21 and like what 3 or 5 interceptions, 21 touchdowns, and in the last 3 games. This is crazy.
No, it is crazy. And if we were just talking about that 2001 team anyway, the amount of ballers that were on that team in general was insane. Obviously, we're not going to go through the whole roster. Just real quick. Rolovich, Ashley Lee, first round pick, Craig Stutzman, Vince Manuai, my Lord, ballers on the board. Now going into the running backs. Hawaii, number 1 is Hawaii's first ever All-American, the first person to ever have his number retired at the University of Hawaii. Tommy Kaula,
Kuala Kakui.
Well, I know, I've been on the mainline too long. Oh, Jesus. Thank you for say his name correctly. Yeah. Gary Allen and then Travis Sims at number 3. No Alex Green. Why is that?
Yeah. Oh, this tortured me because I wanted Alex in there. Like he was such a dual threat. He was so good, but yeah, like these I couldn't move off these 3 names. These are like legends in Hawaii lore. And like yeah, Travis Sims was just man, he was just a machine. So yeah, I think we could have gone like 6 or 8, with Joey Iosefa. Oh, there's so many names that we could go through,
Yeah, even guys of the more modern age, like a dude that balled out his entire career, but his time in Hawaii was kind of hemmed up because of the Chow years, and 2 just the offense he was in was Diosmy St. Just as well.
Absolutely.
He was an absolute
Nate Alawa.
Yeah. Oh wow. You talk about guys gonna run somebody over. That's him.
Yeah.
Joey Iosefa's guy that I watched live. Not only was he a power running back, he had good quickness in terms of getting out of his cut, and he just wasn't afraid to bang. I remember one time he was in the Wildcat formation and he jumped over the pile on the line of scrimmage. I think his helmet cracked somebody. Like he could hear the sound throughout the whole stadium. Did that stop him? No. He still ended up in the end zone. And I will never forget his jump pass touchdowns that they would just throw in randomly. When you talk about the University of Hawaii and offense, the passing game has essentially been it since June Jones' arrival. Obviously, the run and shoot is a philosophy that is ingrained in Hawaii football culture. I mean, St. Louis has been running it for decades under the Lees. With that being said, you need both talented and smart wide receivers because that's just how the offense works. With like each receiver can have a total of like 7 different combinations of routes it can run, depending on defensive coverages on any play. With that being said, for your wide receivers, you selected Devon Best, number 1, Jason Rivers, number 2, Ashley Lee, number 3. Number 4 is Ryan Grice-Mullen. Number 5, Greg Salas. Number 6, Ron Hall. Great list, but I'm going to ask you a question that I was asked when I released my initial top 10 list. Where's Chad Owens?
It's so hard. It's so hard. Like, yeah, Chad's not in there, and there's so many names that are not in there, what's his, oh my gosh, like, there's so many names that could be here.
Yeah,
and it's like the run and shoot era just dominates this. Like, I noticed that like the 80s and 90s was more about the linemen and the running backs, whereas when you get into the run and shoot, it's more about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. So yeah, I wanted John Ursula in my list too, but I couldn't get him in there. So yeah, it made me sick leaving Ursula and Owens out. But I got Owens later on in the list. So.
Right. Yeah, I think we all know he's the greatest returner ever in Hawaii history. So he does get his flowers. Ron Hall, that's not a name that comes up a lot. Why'd you include him in the list?
Well, I wanted to include some variety, and like there's so many run and shoot wide receivers here. I wanted to like extend an olive branch to the past. So I went with Ron Hall. I read about him. So I never saw him play, but I read about him.
Yeah, I think that's the issue in general with Hawaii history and Hawaii football history is there were so many great players from a time when TV access to them, it was really hard to find. I mean, I tried looking up Al Noga highlights and he was just in the 80s and the pictures were grainy at best. Obviously, you can see the Samoan sack machine, wreak havoc. We'll just talk about film in general. It's hard to get a good look at these guys. When you come to receivers, obviously getting them down to 6 is hard enough. Now, ranking the 6, that's even more difficult. A surprise for me is that you have Jason Rivers at number 2 over Ashley Lee, Ryan Grice-Mullen, and Greg Salas. Why did you put him so high?
Well, personally, to me, he's the best wide receiver in UH history. It's just, that's my personal bias. I would have him number 1 if this, like, in my opinion, but yeah, I like J Riv the best. This is the complete wide receiver. And it's just crazy that there's 3 of these guys played on the same team. Like, that's insane.
No, it is. And if we want to get better, I'm not sure if he was actually on the field as his redshirt year, but Greg Salas, Hawaii's all-time leader in receiving yards, was also on the roster as well, along with a guy like CJ Hawthorne, a very underrated wide receiver. I like Jason Rivers a lot, especially, I believe it was the game against Washington in 2007 when Hawaii was down, I think 28-7 at one point or 21-0. I think it was both. He was one of the wide receivers that led the comeback, and I'll never forget, it was 28-14, I believe, at the end of the first half. Brennan rolled out to his left and threw an absolute dime to Jason Rivers, where he had to slide his 1 foot at the end of the end zone before sliding out of bounds. They called it incomplete. He viewed it was a touchdown. Just shows the type of ability that he had. Ashley Lee doesn't get a lot of hype in terms of numbers because guys like Best, Rivers, Salas, Grice-Mullen eclipsed him. Can you just talk about his time at Hawaii and that combination between him and Nick Rolovich, especially those final 3 games of 2001?
Yeah, him and Rolo, yeah, they did some damage that that was his junior year?
Yeah,
he went out early, right? Yeah. So but Ashley's solid. I mean, to go from a walk on and he got recruited. Like he walked on under Von Oppen, right? And to from where he came from at Radford to what he ended up as, he's like high. He's the highest pick, right, for Hawaii.
Yeah, at
That's
19th
just
overall, I
crazy.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in UH history. So I mean, our walk on program is just incredible. Yeah.
No,
So for him to go from that, he did okay. He did okay in Denver. So
no, you brought up a great point. I want to touch on that real quick. The walk-on program at the University of Hawaii is second to none, I would say, in terms of all time. Obviously, Colt Brennan, who is arguably the greatest Warrior, I think we can all agree, most 90% of people would agree, he's number one all time, was a walk-on. That Chad Owens was a walk-on. Rich Miano was a walk-on. So many talented players came on as walk-on.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see the new generation under Chang, because that's something that he, made important, or had made a point of emphasis in his new administration down in Manoa. So very excited to see that. Moving on to the boys in the trenches, the O-line, the offensive tackles. You got Levi Stanley, number one, Leo Goez, number two, Adrian Clem, number three, Joe Onosai, number four, Dan Audick, number five. Pretty solid list. I don't think we got to go through anything like that. Just those guys were kind of back in the day linemen. Do you see the program kind of reestablishing the dominance that used to have at tackles? Obviously, that guards well into the 2000s, but tackles, it didn't really seem like they had that dude, per se, the game changer for kind of a while.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping so. Like, Il Manning is a stud, so I'm hoping he can, maybe join these guys. Yeah, I mean that's where it's at, is the trenches, right? You got to build it from the offensive and defensive lines. So, most of my guys come from the 80s. So that's
which is interesting. They're all obviously in the run dominant era of Hawaii. You would think that a left tackle, a pass protector would come, would be pretty good in the more passing era. We just haven't seen it to the levels of the greats back in the day. Hopefully that changes. It's a complete different narrative when we talk about the guards. Obviously, the late great Vince Maduai tops your list for the guards, a guy that went on to have a phenomenal career in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars. John Estes, number two, Kyan Forney, number three, Hercules Satele, number four, Kaulana Noah, number five. So many great guards you could choose from. Did Dijon Allen ever come up while you were making your list?
Yeah, he was right there. So same thing with almost a lot of the linemen, you can they played a lot of different positions and they moved around. So it was kind of hard to do the line. Yeah.
No, it was, especially in the early 2000s, so many just great studs.
Another point is like back in the 80s, Hawaii wasn't as heavily recruited by the mainland schools. So we got a lot of the guys that we're not getting now.
Yeah. No, that you do make a very good point. Now we'll talk about that later and how recruiting in the islands kind of changed things. I mean, I remember when I forget what it was, but when Jim Harbaugh became coach at Michigan, he came down to Hawaii, wore the Marcus Mariota jersey, right? Wore the lei, and then offered like Soljay Maiava a scholarship as a freshman when he was at Kahuku, just to show that the reach that these mainland schools have on the islands now. They didn't have this reach back in the day when we talk about centers. Two guys that went to the NFL, Jesse Sapolu, obviously, 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Niners at number one, and Samson Satele at number two, longtime NFL vet. There's not really much to argue about there. Those are just absolute studs. It would have been nice to see there could have been three other Hawaii boys had they chosen to stay home. Obviously, they went on to achieve national acclaim in Chris Naole.
At least he coached here.
What's up? Yeah, at least he coached. Right. Tony Ufunodi, who went on to Nebraska, and also, oh man, he was a center from Big Island, played for the Lions, who played for Nebraska. He'll slip my mind, of course, when we're on camera. Oh man, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Who Bernd Brostick?
No. He played in the early 2000s. He played for the Lions for a long, long
The
time.
Lions.
Oh, another guy that could have stayed home was
Who the what's his face for the Seahawks?
yeah,
Max Unger.
Yeah, Max
Yeah.
Unger could have stayed home.
Yeah.
Another guy that could have stayed home was
He
Olin
went to
Kreutz.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olin Kreutz went to Washington.
Went to
I
Washington.
gotta look his name up because it is going to bug me if I don't allow this. Hawaii, Nebraska lineman. Dominic Raiola. There we go.
Dominic Raiola, right.
Right. So hopefully Hawaii can kind of reestablish those roots, get those, big guys back in green and black. But great list so far to start out on the offense. Now we're going to the defense. And this has a lot of controversy because there's so many ballers throughout so many eras that you could have included on this list. Let's kick it off with your edge rushers. David Maeva at number 1.
Oh, I didn't put it in. I got the order here. I got Al Noga number 1, Nico Noga number 2, Travis LeBoy number 3, David Vaikuni number 4, Mouton number 5, and then I got Maeva.
Okay. I was about to say, like, Al Noga not number 1. That was gonna cause
Al Noga
some controversy. Yeah, obviously, I don't know what Mama Noga was feeding them, but my goodness, did it work?
I was a little kid when they were playing, and like I just remember they were just men amongst boys. They would wreak havoc on the line. So
yeah, and the third brother also played for UH. I can't remember his first name right now. It's like John or something like that, but I'm probably wrong. But obviously Al Noga went on to have a great career, All-American, played for the Minnesota Vikings. There's
really of family members that played too.
So. Yeah, right. There's really nothing to say. Nico Noga, great career. Ma'atan Vasa, Travis LeBoy, NFL vets. David Vakune, also a guy that went on to the NFL. Did a name like Ikaika Alama Francis ever pop into your head?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm so biased. I loved Mental and Psycho, so I put him in there. Like I should have probably put Alama Francis at 6.
No, that's fair. I'm gonna ask a question. Obviously, he didn't qualify because of my criteria. Had a guy like Corey Bethley stayed at Hawaii, I mean, he kind of did both because he was a rusher and a rover. Do you think that he could have made the list of an edge rusher or linebacker, wherever we would have put him?
Absolutely. I guess we'll never know, though, right?
Yeah. Obviously, he's at Arizona State getting coached up by the great Herm Edwards. But my goodness, was he fun to watch? That's a name I'm gonna miss.
Even Muasau had a shot at this too.
No, Darius definitely did. We wish both of them the best. Obviously, Corey Bethley's at Arizona State. Muasau is at UCLA. Let's talk about the interior linemen, the trenches, the big boys. Is this list in order? Levi Stanley number 1, Cliff LeBoy number 2, Isaac Sopoaga number 3, Tom Tweeney number 4, Larry Cole Super Bowl champ number 5, and Colin Scott number 6.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty straight up list. Guys that had incredible careers at Hawaii, and some of them obviously guys like Sopoaga, Larry Cole, and two of the big examples of guys that went on to the NFL to great success. Here's a name I'm going to throw out for you. Obviously, he didn't end his career due to some off the field issues. Do you think if Kennedy Tuli Masali'i stayed at University of Hawaii, he could have been one of those greats?
I totally agree. Yeah, it kind of makes me sick. Yeah, he was something.
Yeah,
I remember like watching him in high school, and like they would have like a couple guys try to block him, and they couldn't stop him. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's sad. I mean, he was a dude that showed out when Hawaii went up and played Ohio State and Wisconsin. That those defenses held those teams to a low amount of points until like the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, just fatigue caught up to them. And one of the stalwarts was Kennedy. And I think he led the NCAA. He balled out. Yeah, he did. I think he was top 10 in tackles for D tackles during his last season in Manoa. It is what it is. Is there anybody else on that list that you were thinking about including or that, kind of missed the chopping block?
I had a hard time. The interior lineman is hard. I had to go back to fill this list. So I didn't know who Larry Cole was or Colin Scott, but it was interesting finding out about him. It's hard finding interior linemen. those space eaters that are just dogs, you know,
Yeah,
in the middle. Yeah.
exactly. Hawaii, surprisingly, in my opinion, hasn't had that kind of big boy, nose
Right.
tackle, the dominant force since probably Kennedy Tuimaseli, but just in
Yeah.
general for a long time. But you don't have that issue in fire names when it comes to the linebackers. I
Oh
mean,
wow. Yeah.
yeah, this is a list that we're gonna get into heavy. Of course, number one is the great Pisa Tino Isamoa, who spent a long time in the NFL as well. Another guy, I believe he's a DC at UCLA. Number two, Jeff Ulbrich. Mark
Mm-hmm.
Odom at number three, who leads Hawaii in sacks. I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon Eli Mimian, arguably one of Canada's greatest defenders of all time in terms of the CFL. Alan Leonard at number five, and Alvis Satele number six. I'm going to rattle off a list of names, and you have to tell me why you didn't include them. First
Okay.
off is Solomon's brother, Abraham Eli Mimian. Another guy, Corey Paredes, Aaron Brown.
Yeah.
Why didn't these guys make the list?
It's just there's not enough spots. There's not enough spots. I mean, I probably could have gone like 12 deep in this one. Rich tradition at linebacker for Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously a guy that has part of that tradition, Chris Brown, he didn't make the list. My head coach when I was in high school, Eddie Kleneski, he didn't make the list either. I mean, Eddie Kleneski. So obviously I've told the story before, but I'll say it again. Eddie Kleneski is an absolute baller and a banger, and he does not care who he has to hit. Just the fact that he gets to hit him is satisfaction enough. So his finger, I believe, on his right hand, this normally is straight, right? Well, his is crooked. It's completely bent to the side. So in practice, whenever he pointed at you, he's actually pointing this way. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So fun thing about him.
Can I tell it? Can I tell a story real quick?
Absolutely.
When I got married, we went up to Canada for our honeymoon, and just Solomon Elamimian was just plastered all over the city up there. It was crazy just seeing him, his posters all over like the subway, and it was a metro, not a subway, but it was just crazy.
Yeah, I believe he spent majority of his career with the BC Lions, British Columbia Lions up there. Yeah. I mean, he was a baller, but also a really humble, down to earth guy. I remember an interview when obviously they talked about Hawaii's facilities and how run down they were. He said that whenever he was on a tour with a new recruit, he just take him to Waikiki Beach because the facilities were so bad. So just kind of show that he was more than just a player. He was a funny person as well, and an absolute legend, both in college and in the pros. When it came to filling that fifth and sixth spots, was there debate between who you want to put there, obviously with so many names, or are you confident that you're good with Leonard and Satele?
No, I just think that this is one of those questions, is how you feel that day. I feel like it's hard to go wrong with all those names. So yeah, there's a lot of great linebackers in Hawaii tradition. Yeah.
There is. Personally, me, because just to my youth, I have a little bit of a recency bias in my list. With that being said, Jelian Tavai, what happened? I mean, he was selected second round overall, great linebacker. Did he get close to cutting in, or was he just in that? Is it too much to?
I didn't really have him in this list. So I respect him. I felt like he was a little overdrafted by the Lions, but you still respect Jelani.
No, that's fair. I thought he'd be a third round pick at the highest point. But obviously he's restarting his career in New England. Wish him the best. And just he goes on that tradition of great Hawaii linebackers. Talking about great players and guys that made a dent in the NFL, the cornerbacks. Obviously, without a doubt, this is a guy I had to be educated on, and when I looked him up, my goodness, was he an absolute stud. Number one is Jarris White, two-time Super Bowl champion with Washington, I believe. And his replacement was Hall of Famer Darrell Green out there, just to show how good he was. Blaine Geisen, number two, a guy that really opened the door for Hawaii players to play in the NFL, play with the Falcons. I actually played baseball with his nephew. I met his brother, Gary. Great family. I believe they live in Monowilly. Could be wrong on that, but great family. Obviously, baller. Number three, my favorite cornerback of all time, Ryan Mouton. I mean, when you want to talk about stud, this guy had everything that you can have. Most famous play would be
Yep.
against Washington, right? When,
The
Jake
sealer.
Longer, right? Tipped the ball up, intercepted, 12-0 season. Dana McLemore, legend. Walter Briggs, legend. And then you had Abraham Ilandumian as a cornerback in this list. Did any names like Trayvon Henderson, Myron Newberry, those guys pop up?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I'm being too, I don't have too many recent guys. I don't know if it's just, I'm kind of an old dude. So I don't know if I'm just too stuck in the past. Yeah, I really don't have too many like guys from the last 10 years. So maybe that's, a fault with my list, but yeah, it's definitely not recency biased.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. Out of this whole list, obviously, I'm not going to include Jarrett Swift because he's the clear favorite. But
Yeah.
what player was your favorite to watch when it came to the rest of the quarterbacks?
Mouton was special. Yeah, I would watch him. I would just tell my dad when we were at the games, I was like, that guy is NFL. So when the Titans took him, I was like, yep.
No, absolutely. He had a really great career, obviously at Hawaii and also in the NFL with the Titans. One of, obviously besides the Washington interception, one of my favorite plays, and just because of how it ended, was in the 2008 season. Hawaii went up to Fresno and defeated Fresno State on the road. Fresno State was ranked, but in that game they went into overtime, and Fresno State had an opportunity to kick a field goal to go up, and Hawaii would have had a chance to tie. In that game, Ryan Mouton came off the edge and attempted a field goal block, and he missed because the kick was off. However, the kicker shook the ball, as he did most of the day, and then he fell to the ground untouched, screaming and crying pain. He threw the flag for roughing the kicker, and then he just shook the next kick. So that's another great memory I have of Ryan Mouton, and just a great University of Hawaii win. Cornerbacks are great. Linebackers are great. Let's talk about the safeties, especially these guys, because these are the hard hitting safeties. Number one, you have the great Nate Jackson, a guy that could play anywhere on the field, especially coming up on that rush. He could absolutely conk you on the blind side. Rich Miano played, 9 years in the NFL, by that walk-on tradition. And of course, my favorite safety of all time, the dude that had hair like Troy Polamalu, I could crack you at any point in time, Leonard Peters, the great Kahuku legend. I don't got nothing to say about this list except, my goodness, what a bunch of absolute legends.
I added Brian. I added Brian Addison. So I had a hard time with this one. The first three guys were easy, but then I don't know. But do you have any more for safeties?
I mean, personally,
I had a hard time with this one.
Yeah, I had a hard time too because, like, when it comes to the top 100, after those three, there's I feel like, no disrespect to any safeties played in Hawaii, but to me, there's a little bit of a drop off in terms of talent, and that's just because these three guys set the bar so high. I mean, I'm completely good with your list. Personally, I would have had Miano number one, just because of what he did. But my personal favorite will forever be Leonard Peters. I think he was one of the really great hard hitters in that Jerry Glanville defense back in the 2006 season. I will never forget in the 2006 Hawaii Bowl against Arizona State, he came up on a blitz, I believe the A gap, untouched, absolutely lit up the quarterback. The ball went like 15 feet in the air. It was incredible.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then obviously Peters went on to have a really good commentary career with OC16. Out of these three safeties, who is just your favorite to watch?
Well, that's like Nate Jackson. I mean, he was 150 pounds soaking wet with bricks stuffed in his shorts, and he'd knock your head off. So, I mean, that's why I have him number one, because I don't remember Miano. I was just like a baby. So, I remember watching him on, in the NFL when he played for like the Falcons and the Jets. I just don't remember Miano. That's, honestly, you take Rich Miano out of our program and it's a totally different program in so many different aspects. He's affected our program probably more than anybody else, period. So.
No, absolutely. As a player, there's an argument to be said that when it comes to professional levels, he is the greatest to ever play. I mean, in terms of having a great college career and also a great NFL career, there's an argument to be made for him. There's also argument to be. What's up?
From walk-on to 12-year NFL career. That's insane.
Exactly. No, I was just gonna
And
add that.
that's a testament to him.
Exactly. He's one of the start of the great walk-ons at the University of Hawaii. And just when it comes to pro careers in general, I mean, obviously, just Sapolu is the gold standard, without a doubt. 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Jarris White, 2 Super Bowls. And then Mark Tuine, the late great guard. He didn't have a great career in Hawaii, but went on with the Cowboys to achieve a lot. But then you got a guy like Rich Miano, who played a position that Hawaii isn't typically known for, sending to the NFL in terms of safety. Carved out an incredible career for himself. And then obviously we're talking about him as an assistant coach later on. I'm of the belief he should have gotten the head coaching job after Greg Mackin. We'll jump into that later. But he has just been, when it comes to just Hawaii in general, he's a great ambassador for what Hawaii is all about having opportunities for his kids to go out. You know, he's the director of the Hula Bowl as well. So many great things that he has done. Kicking it off with the special teamers, punt returner, clearly number 1, Chad Owens. I mean, there's nothing to debate there. Number 2, there's nobody that you can say. Calvin Turner, number 2, obviously the most recent pick of your list in terms of when he played at University of Hawaii. And Jeff Snyder at number 3. Besides, obviously, Chad Owens, was it difficult for you to rank Turner, Snyder, and whoever you had down the list?
Yeah, like this is hard. And I just remember like when Jeff would like catch the ball and he would just get creamed. Sometimes he would like jump and dodge, and sometimes he'd get creamed, and he wouldn't fair catch. He would always just take it. So, and like Calvin Turner was just special. Like he was like he's another Swiss Army knife. So, and Chad Owens, there's nobody else like him. Like special teams. Like,
Yeah, absolutely
phenomenal. And he's such a nice guy too.
No, exactly. He's a great ambassador, not only for Hawaii football, just Hawaii in general. Chad Owens went on to have an incredible career in the CFL. He won the CFL's most outstanding player, along with the 100th Grey Cup with the Toronto Argonauts. Calvin Turner is the only player in FBS history to pass, rush, and receive for over 1,000 yards in his career.
Should have been returning too.
Yeah,
he was 2 yards short. That's just insanity.
Exactly.
Like, so infuriating.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not on your kick return list, but I just want to talk about Calvin Turner real quick and the fact that Hawaii went against Houston in the 2020 Frisco Bowl that was supposed to be played in New Mexico, was played in Texas against Houston. Hawaii's a 14-point underdog in that game and ended up winning by 14, primarily because of the greatness of Calvin Turner Jr. And whenever it looked like Houston was about to come back in that game, he took like a 101-yard kickoff return to the house to ice the game, just to show how special he really was.
Yeah, like he could reverse field better than anybody else I've ever seen. Like he did that how many times? He would take it to one side and he'd reverse field to the other side and score a touchdown. He did that what, like 3 or 4 times in his career. Yeah. And we only had 2 seasons here.
Yeah.
It's just sad that we as Hawaii fans didn't get to see more of him because he played during the 2 COVID years. It's just sad.
No, it is sad, especially when you consider that first season. I think Hawaii only played like 6 or 8 games that season.
Yeah.
Right. So that was already short enough. So he didn't even have a whole 2 seasons. Alongside the fact that I would have really liked to see him in Rolovich's run and shoot what he initially was coming to. Oh man, it hurts to think about, especially when you consider what he did with Chevy Cordero. Then they could have introduced the read option, him in the backfield. Oh, so many things you could have done. But it's all
Wildcat.
Yeah, Wildcat, and he did that too. Instrumental in beating Fresno State last season. Hawaii's first ever win at a ranked opponent in like 11 years since the upset over Colin Kaepernick's Nevada. Wow, he was just special. Scott Harding.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why did he not make the cut?
I wanted to fit him in there. I just didn't have a spot for him. I couldn't knock any of these guys for him. But yeah, he's coming up though.
No, absolutely. So let's kick it off with the kick returners. Of course, Chad Owens number 1. For people that think we're over exaggerating, in the game against BYU, he returned a punt he returned the kickoff to the opponent's like 32.
Yeah.
Then he returned the first
Yeah.
punt for a touchdown. Then the second kickoff, he returned for a touchdown. Just to show you the type of guy that he was as a returner. Derek Branch, number 2. Matthew Harding at number 3. Who was number 4 for you?
Calvin Turner.
Yeah, there's no argument from me there. Oh man.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking more about that. Oh, that just hurts to think about. I wish he had more time in Hawaii, but it is what it is.
He's a nice dude. He's a nice dude. I got to meet him a couple times. Very, very, very soft spoken and very humble. But he's got drive though. So I'm hoping for the best for him. I hope he gets a chance in camp. That's all he needs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. He joins a list of Warriors that are going to be attempting to make a 53-man roster. Of course, joining Jared Smart, I believe Gene Pryor, and also Cortez Davis in the NFL. Going to special teams in terms of punters and kickers, Hawaii's had actually a really incredible history when it comes to kickers and punters as well. Kicking off with punters, you have Matt McBride, number 1, had a phenomenal career in Hawaii, went on to the NFL, and had a long career with the Dallas Cowboys. Rigoberto Sanchez, who was both punter and kicker while he was in Hawaii. Now he is the punter and placeholder for the Indianapolis Colts. And then third, of course, the rugby punter, Scott Harding. A great list, Alex Dunaki. Was he ever in your head?
Yeah, he was. I wanted to stick him in there. I didn't give anything to Scott Harding, and he was just such a, he was one of my favorite players. He was the MVP of that team, right? That during those Chow years, and he just did everything. So Danaki does deserve to be mentioned here, and yeah, McBride would just boom those kicks. It would go up out of Aloha Stadium, and Rigoberto, he would kick it with such finesse, and like those angled kicks were just phenomenal. He couldn't even return it. So
yeah. I watched a video of Matt Breyer recently just to kind of like catch his Hawaii highlights. There was a punt that was kicked during the daytime that I lost in the sun because it was so high, just as a testament to how booming his punts were. And Scott Harding, I mean, I think he could average like 1 muff punt a game because of his weird style. Obviously, the rugby rollout. I remember seeing returns to get all scared, make the wrong play, and Hawaii would be able to capitalize. It sucks.
He had moxie though. I just liked it. He was just so different and cool. I don't know, but we didn't have much in those Chow years, but I mean we had Harding, so
he was one of the few bright lights in a really dark time. The best part about that rollout is that he always had the option to take off for it, so it made punt exciting.
He did sometimes. Yes. Yeah. He took off a couple times, so because we didn't have much on offense, so sometimes we needed the Scott to take off and get us a first down.
So I was just getting sad thinking about those child days, man. Those oh man, so many blowouts. That was the worst part, was that it weren't even close. Just so many blowout losses.
And he's still trying to establish the run with 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Down by 40, right?
No, it was not happening. I mean, I'll always be grateful because Chow was the coach when I went to my first ever University of Hawaii game live, which was Hawaii versus UNLV, where Marcus caught the game winner with no time left.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, that's a good one to go to.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Chow completely stuffed the game. May I just add that? It was senior night. Hawaii was down 14-0 to start. Scott Harding, with all due respect, could not catch a punt to save his life that game. He was muffing everything left, right, and center. Only Naquan Phillips' interception kept it from going from 14 to 21. Then Hawaii goes up, right? They're finally winning. UNLV drives down, scores a lead with less than a minute. All the players run the field. Flags get thrown everywhere. And they kick the ball out of bounds.
They kicked the ball out of bounds. Yep.
So then they made their way down.
Give us a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Left-hander, Ikaika Woosley out the shotgun, It was going one place and one place only. Kemp was able to reel it in, and what a great ending to a lot of tough years. For those players on senior night. Going to the kickers, I mean, clearly number one is the always all-time points leader, two-time Super Bowl champion, Jason Elam. No debate there. Number two, I agree with you 100%, Dan Kelly, a very underrated kicker in that 07 season. I mean, Hawaii doesn't beat Nevada if he has any type of push to him, on the road. Tyler Gronke played a whale of a game in place of Colt Brennan. But not only did he hit the 43-yarder to beat them once, they iced them. So he kicked it once, he made it. Kicked it again, made it even better. It was accurate right down the middle. And he's probably the reason Hawaii didn't get blanked in the Sugar Bowl.
Right.
Because if he doesn't make that field goal early, that defense is probably trying to keep Hawaii at a 0 towards the end of the game, of course. So Dan Kelly, very underrated kicker. The third, Matthew Shipley. No Ayat, no Rigo.
So I really, I think I'm projecting a little bit because Shipley's the real deal, man. He can boom it from 55, like no sweat. So I believe in Shipley, and I might be a little premature in this, but Shipley's awesome. So I got to tell you, when I was in the 6th grade, I would drag my dad to the stadium early to watch Jason Elam during before kickoff and just practice, and he would just boom it from 55 yards. He'd spin the ball and boom it. It was crazy, and the sound, it just sounded like a cannon. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and I would go early to watch a guy kick as a 6th grader.
Yeah, I mean, I never did that.
That's power.
Yeah, no, that is power I've never seen before, and obviously his NFL career justified all his love. Pretty much Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Consistency is definitely the strap. He's not only just a big leg, but he could nail it all the time. That finishes our list for the best players of all time, and it is. I don't want to use the word controversial. That's not what I'm aiming for, but it is a difficult list to say the least because there's so many, great talents, and obviously we both had.
I agonized over this for a week, so. But it was a joy and painful at the same time too. But I enjoyed it. So I appreciate. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Of course,
we're not done yet though.
No, not even close. We're gonna talk a little bit more now. We're gonna go to the coaches. But I've been trying to put together this top 100 list, and as soon as I think I have somebody there, I look at the next one, was like, oh wait, that person was better. Then I think to myself, wait, was it? It is hard to list these great players and guys that just had so much heart, right? So if we're just going off stats and stuff like that, that's different. But you got eras, heart that really when these guys put on the Hawaii jersey, they gave everything that they had. Even the guys that didn't make the cut, even the more of the 2019 guys that went 10-5, Hawaii's best season in arguably a decade with the Hawaii Bowl victory at a Mountain West Division title, right? Guys like JoJo Ward, Cedric Bird, Jared Smart, as I mentioned, Mcdonald, those guys are ballers. And though they're a little bit hemmed up because of the greats of the 07 and 01 and things like that, they deserve their recognition too because of just how dominant they were. They were the most explosive offense I've seen in Hawaii since 2010. So just a quick shout out to those dudes as well. But of course, nothing is good without the coaches. So top 3 head coaches, top assistants at 6. Let's kick it off with the head coaches. Of course, there's no doubt. Number 1, Sean has Norm Chow, right? So watch. No. Of course, the all-time winningest.
No question.
Yeah, right. All-time winningest coach in University of Hawaii history. June Jones takes at number 1. Dick Tomey takes at number 2, and Bob Wagner takes it at number 3. June Jones, there's no question, right? In terms of record, it's him. In terms of excitement, it's him. In terms of bowl victories and conference titles, it's him. Tomey is obviously the great legend, but he never won a
Yeah.
division title or went to
It's
a bowl
true.
game. Bob Wagner did. Was there a debate for you to put Wagner at 3 and Tomey at 2?
Yeah, I went back and forth. I just thought about like what they mean to the program, and I just think that Tomey has a little bit more clout, and Wagner coached under Tomey, so I I just feel like Tomey's a legend, and just man, those days too, like we were averaging like 43,000 a game. It's just it was good times.
No, unfortunately, it is sad because I mean, for me personally, I will never see another game. No one will at Aloha Stadium, and I never got to be a part of a stadium that had more than like 25,000 at most. You know, the 07 and even 2010 seasons, they had a packed house, but the 80s and the 90s and even the 70s to an extent, like since the opening of the stadium, everyone packed, that place, and it's just sad to see that the new generation won't get to experience, 45, 50,000 people watching them play, of course, until if they ever, which I don't think is gonna happen, build a new stadium. Yeah, but that would be a long topic.
That's another topic. Yeah.
A lot of government officials will probably get, shot on the side verbally if we go down that road. When you look at this list, 3 great coaches, there's 2 coaches I want to bring up. I want to see if they ever had a chance of breaking your top 3, which is, of course, Nick Rolovich and Greg.
Yeah.
Did those guys have shots, or are you sure?
I had Nick higher than McMacken. Yeah, Nick got us the Mountain West title. He got us to the Mountain West championship game. Yeah, and he got us to a couple bowl games. That first one was really special. Like that was like the best 7-7 team ever. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not. Sorry, continue.
Tremendous respect for Nick Rolovich, which is why I had him as number 1 as the assistant. So
yeah, I mean, it makes sense because obviously that offense in 2010 under McMacken was all Rolovich's design, and obviously, Rolovich went to 3 Hawaii Bowls, 1, 2. I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I almost had tears in my eyes when Hawaii beat Middle Tennessee State in 2016 because I personally thought I would never see Hawaii ever win a bowl game because I became a fan in 07. And obviously they lost Sugar Bowl, then they lost the Hawaii Bowl in 08, like to Notre Dame, and they lost in 2010 to Tulsa, and then they just so horrible. And then, like you said, they're the greatest 7-7 team of all time. They had to
Todd Graham.
Todd Graham at Tulsa. That was interesting. Definitely.
They whooped us. Yeah.
He did. And I was so confident.
We had a lot of players out that game too. I remember we had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, so Aloha got early too.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But Tulsa came in and took care of business. That's no other way to put it. And Hawaii was ranked 24th in the nation too. Had a WAC title. Brian Moniz, Greg Silas, Kealoha, Alex Green, Royce Pollard, even Rodney Bradley. I'm a big Rodney Bradley fan. Yeah, so. And then 2016 comes around. Not only are they winning, they have to beat UMass on senior night to do it. And they hold off a last-minute stand on defense to even have a chance to qualify. I talk with Samson Ungwai about that story, and then eventually get the call at the banquet that they're in the Hawaii Bowl. I'm excited. I'm in California with my family, so I'm watching the game, and Middle Tennessee State goes up 14-0 early. I'm like, here we go again. Hawaii comes raging back. Obviously, Drew Brown was a quarterback, and I had a lot of hope that Drew Brown was going to be able to take UH to the next level. Obviously, the season after didn't really work out, and that he went to Oklahoma State. But in that game, they came back, and obviously Trayvon Henderson's pick 6 to go 28-14. It sealed it, and Hawaii went on, and it just was the start of everything else. So definitely want to shout out Nick Rolovich. Moving on to your assistants, obviously Nick Rolovich, number 1, Big 12 and Sugar Bowl champion at Baylor, and national champion at LSU as a DC. Dave Aranda, number 2, Paul Johnson, great OC with Michael Carter and the boys. He went on to be at Navy and then also Georgia Tech, and he's primarily responsible for all the Hawaii connections within the service academy, obviously. Ken Niumatalolo at head coach at Navy, Ivan Jasper, assistant at Navy, Jeff Munkin, head coach at Army, and the coach before that, I forget his name, also Rich Ellison, I think, was another Hawaii guy.
Yes. Army,
all under Paul Johnson, who was under Bob Wagner. And then he went on, Paul Johnson went on to Georgia Tech to great success. George Lumpkin, longtime assistant coach at the University of Hawaii. He is just...
He's the string that is the thread through all of the coaching staffs from like the 70s to, pretty recent. So George Lumpkin was the thread.
Exactly. Arguably, he can be the OG. He's like the OG Abraham Eli Mimian in terms of coaches. Guys that have survived multiple coaching tenures. Rich Miano, great assistant head coach at the University of Hawaii, was one of the guys responsible for the great runs in 2006, 2007. And then Mouse Davis, he didn't invent it because I was Tiger Ellison, but he's the one that brought the passing element to the run and shoot up at Portland State, and absolutely
there's so many different names you could put in here too. You put Dino Babbers, you can, there's so many names. Yeah, Don Capers was here, Jerry Glanville was here.
Yep.
What was the little offensive line coach under June? I can't remember his name.
Bald Deuce.
What's his, I couldn't remember his name. I loved him.
Yeah, I know he's McKnight.
No, not Dennis McKnight.
Oh no, not that. But
I can't remember his name. I tried looking him up. I couldn't find him.
Yeah, but I mean, those he was one too. Another guy was Greg McMackin, was a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Greg McMackin almost made my list. Yeah,
exactly. No, there's nothing else to say besides so many great assistant coaches underneath that list. Obviously, we can go on over that, but Rolovich became head coach at the University of Hawaii. So did Greg McMackin, who's not on your list.
Yeah.
Out of everybody else, Dave Aranda, Paul Johnson, George Lumpkin, Mouse Davis, Rich Miano, and don't limit yourself to one. This is more of a broader question.
Yeah.
Who do you think of these guys should have gotten a chance to be the head coach of the University of Hawaii?
Rich Miano. Rich Miano deserved a shot to run this, to run the football program.
Yeah.
I'm totally biased. I mean, his contributions to the state and to the university goes so deep and it's so strong. Like to this day, his camps, his support, everything that he does, it's for the benefit of the University of Hawaii. So as a player, as a coach, as a supporter, as a booster, a commentator, man, much respect to Rich.
I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. And when there was rumors that June Jones would come back and Rich Miano stepped down from the coaching search because he wanted to be an assistant head coach again, I mean, I almost was salivating at just the thought of it. Obviously, for a multitude of reasons, it didn't work out. But that just kind of shows the type of guy he is. That he's willing to step aside for the betterment of the program. I really thought he should have succeeded McMackin personally in 2012. Yeah. I don't think Hawaii would have went on that slope had he been the head coach. But that's neither here nor there. Dave Aranda would have been really cool too to have as a head coach.
Oh my gosh. What Chow didn't want him, so he let him go, right?
Yeah. Chow wanted his own guys.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a lot of Baylor games last year. I was like, such a nice dude too. He only talks the talk, he walks the walk. Aranda's a great guy. Good football coach.
No, he is. Obviously, his Baylor defense, or aka the Baylor track team, as people like to say, because of their high 40 times, dominated the Big 12 last year with guys like JT Woods and Jalen Pierre, Jalen Barnes, Kalen Barnes, and Jalen Peter, I can't even say his name. They have a Poly, a D tackle too, that's really good. And then obviously you look at his LSU teams, Chason, Delpit, Stingley Jr., right? I could go on a list. But then you look at Hawaii's defense, I mean, those were hard hitters. Aaron Brown, Corey Paredes, Mana Silva. a really underrated safety, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can see the blueprints with that. And then, unfortunately, I'm not trying to bash Norm Chow, but he gets rid of Dave Aranda, brings in, I think, Tom Kallmeyer, and that defense gets smoked week in, week out. It would have been nice to see, especially since Aranda was able to, elevate these Hawaii boys.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is that staff didn't need to be blown up. It's just sad.
No, it is.
Just, it just goes to show, like, whenever we get away from what works here and you try to bring in that mainland stuff that they're not familiar with here, it just doesn't work. So hopefully they figured that out after Graham.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm hopeful too. Just a personal note. I know we both have had differing opinions when it came to the Ty Graham era, but we were both in agreement that it was ending poorly, without a doubt. No disrespect to the Grahams in general. I thought his son Bo was a great run designer, because Hawaii had some really nice runs last year. I just thought from a passing standpoint, it was just unacceptable, and play calling was unacceptable. I wish personally that Graham's defense and like Rolovich's offense could have been together, because that 3-3-5 was fun to watch underneath Ty Graham. And that was obviously from Corey Batoon as well.
I agree. That might have been that would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it is what it is. Of course, I support Coach Chang like you do, and the boys coming up, but just the what ifs always seem to haunt Hawaii, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've concluded our portion of looking at the greatest Hawaii players of all time. A great list. Before we go on and get your perspective on a couple things as a fan, TC Ching, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
What I like about it, let's see. How do I be nice? What do I like about it? Well, the everything is close. So I just feel like the University of Hawaii deserves a better place to play than TC Ching. Some people think that it's the answer. I feel like it's a glorified practice field, and I feel like we need the new Aloha Stadium project to get off the ground. I feel like if we stay at TC Ching, we're eventually going to get dropped from the Mountain West, and we're headed towards a smaller division. I don't feel that TC Ching is where it's at. So
yeah, I completely
it's a Band-Aid on a severed limb. That's how I feel. It'll be good for 2 or 3 years, but I don't see it as a long-term answer. That's just my opinion.
I completely agree with you, and I hope I have the opportunity to check out TC Ching soon. I remember I was in 8th grade, and I competed in a Catholic schools league track and field event on TC Ching field, and my goodness, was it small, right? There's no way to put it.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. It just added more seats,
Yeah.
And you can probably just go kick in the garage and watch a football game if you really wanted to at that point. Just the way it is. I like the fact that students have more access to it because it's on campus.
That's the one positive, is that student section is lit. It is finally it's the only time I've ever seen the students it's impressive. It's really impressive. But that's not what you build a program around outside of Duke basketball. You need more. We need more. So
I agree. And it's a shame that, of course, Aloha Stadium will never be played in again in terms of having fans there. And, you mentioned that it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. I want to jump on that and say it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound that's been open for about 25 years, if we're really thinking about it. I remember hearing the theory that, Aloha Stadium's going to rust to a certain point and then stop.
Yeah.
No. That's not how things work.
It's going to rust itself into place.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, no, because salt water and, whatever materials they use is definitely going to work out for the long term.
I would have loved to have been at that sales pitch back in the 70s. We're going to build a steel structure next to the ocean or the water, and it'll be all good.
Yeah, right. I would also like to have been there because I know my hand would have probably got greased like everybody else in that room.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how things are done in Hawaii.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Also, side note, the beautiful pillars for the unfinished rail with the beautiful designs in them sit abandoned at Aloha Stadium, a place that can only be used for its parking lot anymore.
My dream is to ride the rail to a new Aloha Stadium. That's a dream that I have.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm gonna live to see that.
I don't think our kids' would be able to see that at this point. But let's talk about the past a little bit. Aloha Stadium. Obviously, it was Hawaii's football home for decades, not only just for the program, but also the great Hawaii high school football scene. Can you talk about some of your great memories in that stadium and just what was it like to be there?
Yeah, so like I grew up in Aloha Stadium. I consider it my second home. My father got season tickets starting in about 1980. So he said, I started watching the games sitting on his lap. My grandparents would bring me to the Pro Bowl every year. So I got to see, the NFL and UH, and I just grew up. And the more I watched UH, the more I fell in love. And when UH and Jason Elam beat Iowa, I started going every game. I bribed my other two brothers to give me their tickets. I paid them out. I had a paper route. I paid them out so I could go to the games. I buy their tickets basically. So my greatest memory, the greatest day of my life was or greatest night of my life was when we beat. So
sorry, the thing broke up.
1989.
Can you repeat what happened?
Oh, wait, from what part?
Who did Hawaii beat?
Yeah, 1989 when Hawaii beat BYU. That stadium, I swear to God, it was going up and down 1 foot. It was rocking. So the greatest night of my life.
Was that the night that Ty Detmer won the Heisman? Or was that
No, that was the year after.
Oh, okay.
And that made it, and in a lot of senses, that made it like we kind of jumped on them first year. So that when we beat them again, it wasn't out of left field, and it wasn't a surprise. So to do it again made it awesome too. So, but there's nothing like that first time.
That is such an incredible story, and I think a lot of Hawaii fans can attest to it. Even myself, from my first time, especially those that got to go during those 06, 07 seasons, when it was kind of like the resurgence of the crowd. Essentially, the best I can say it. Of course, there was good amounts throughout the early days of the 2000s, but man, nothing beat that undefeated season. Especially, were you there when Hawaii beat Boise in 07?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually they show me I have a whack champ sign on. It's about 2 minutes left in the game.
Wait, that's you?
That's me. Yep.
I see that thing so many times on YouTube, just going back and watching that game. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I went to the Sugar Bowl. Me and my family went to the Sugar Bowl. So like a lot of Hawaii people.
Yeah. I want to talk about that because I didn't know that. So obviously Hawaii was afraid that they weren't able to sell enough tickets. And then actually so many people bought tickets that they had to ask for more. Obviously you were a part of that crowd. What was it like to see all those people go out to Louisiana to support the Warriors?
It was crazy. Like I ran into my winter ball date there. I ran into my summer fun leader there. I ran into all these people, just out in Louisiana. It was crazy. I got to go with my family. My friend flew down from Connecticut. We had other friends flying from Hawaii. So I bought like 30 tickets total. So I have a picture somewhere. It was incredible. And just to be there, to be at that game, I would watch that game as a kid and think, wouldn't it be cool if one day we played in this game and we got there. And it sucked that we didn't play well in the game, but we got there. So, and it's funny, like after the game, we were in the lobby and this Georgia fan saw that we were sad, and she said, "Oh, don't worry, like you'll do better next time." And I told her, I said, you don't understand is there's probably not a next time for us, and that's why it's so terrible is because this was like our one shot. So, And she didn't have anything to say after that. She just kind of walked away. So, yeah.
It is kind of like the telling story because, of course, as a Georgia fan, she probably saw the national championships in 1980.
Yeah.
She knew how good the program was going to be. Like, Georgia's been a
Yeah.
powerhouse and will forever be one.
Yeah.
I look back at the Hawaii Bowl a little differently as time goes on because I was devastated when Hawaii lost because not only that they lost, but how they lost.
Yeah.
Obviously, Colt Brennan had no time in the pocket at all.
Yeah.
Georgia was just too good. That is what it is. But looking
Yeah.
back at kind of some of the pictures and seeing the white Warriors jersey on top of the players with the Sugar Bowl patch, I could see that team play inside Mercedes. Well, now it's like Caesars Superdome. It's kind of surreal in the fact that, of course, we've seen Boise and TCU and Utah make that jump. But you look at other programs within the WAC and the Mountain West, like Nevada and Fresno State, like those fans never got to experience that. So over the years, it kind of went from sadness to kind of grateful that we got, as fans, got to experience, going to a New Year's Six game.
Well, and that's because Colt Brennan came back. Everybody picks money in the NFL, and he picked us over that stuff. And like, nobody does that. So I think that's why, so many people love him and love him, so much. It didn't matter what he did after. He picked us. And it was tough because I only brought UH clothes, and we were stuck in New Orleans a week after. And I wore UH clothes and just walking around the street and people saying, "You guys suck. You guys didn't belong here." And I didn't have a rebuttal. I just kind of said, yeah. And but at the same time, like when we sang Hawaii Pono'i, like after, the Georgia fans in front of us, we sat in the end zone and they said, "Wow, you guys didn't leave. You guys aren't going anywhere." And they're like, "We don't have any place to be." And it's like we sang Hawaii Pono'i, and it was chicken skin. We sang the crap out of Hawaii Pono'i. But it was a proud moment for our state, and just, our football program has kind of really gone down. To go from the Sugar Bowl to playing in front of a half empty 9,000 seat stadium, that's a pretty big fall off. So I my full support is behind Timmy. I bought season tickets. I plan on being there for most of the games. So I fully support Timmy and what he's doing.
Yeah, that's we relate a lot in that sense, and the fact that that's why I was so high on June Jones coming back, because he was a guy that did it before, and I thought he could do it again.
He was the one person that knew what to do. He's the one person that this place trusts to do what needs to be done to get us back to where we need to be. And I know so many people that would have bought in. Like, I bought end zone seats for Timmy, but if June came back, I would have bought sideline seats. My dad was asking about, he was interested. And then when they hired Timmy, he's like, "Oh, never mind." So, I mean, there's a difference. I just wonder how many potential season ticket holders did you lose because you went this route? I don't know. And I think June knew too that this was his last swing at the piñata, which is why he wasn't quiet. Yeah.
No, I agree. The only hope I have is that Timmy and the boys, one, do great because I just want them to do great. But then they do so great, he gets a promotion like Rolovich, and perhaps maybe under a new AD, Jones can have another shot at something that we all want to see again.
But I mean, for that, in order for that to happen, I mean, Timmy would have to win 9 or 10 games this year. Yeah. And if Timmy wins 9 or 10 games, he deserves a Pac-12 job. So.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no, oh man,
this is me thinking. What, how UH hired Timmy is textbook on how not to hire a coach. You don't disrespect the greatest coach in your program's history and do what you did to June and showed him absolutely no respect. It was just shameful.
No, it was, and it was kind of unreal in the fact that this would happen to a guy like June Jones, especially in an
Right.
era in the Mountain West where teams are hiring their old coaches back, and some of them are having successes. Obviously, Brady Hook
Right.
in San Diego, Ted
Right. Yeah.
Ginn
San
in
Diego
Oakland.
State, they do their their move. Goes to Michigan, he gets fired, he goes back to San Diego State. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they have an incredible season, in season one, right? So,
right.
it's
So yeah, I just hope they do better the next time. I hope it's like a learning experience with Todd Graham, with the whole June Jones thing. Like I'm just yeah, Timmy has a lot of people he can lean on, and I wish him the best. We're there to support him, whatever he needs.
I agree, and I'm really excited for this Vanderbilt game. Obviously, Hawaii is a 7-point underdog, but they're also 14-point underdogs as Arizona. In the last season, the Rolovich, and they absolutely was smoking them early and beat them. So I'm very excited to see what they do. I hope that the guys that Timmy has brought in terms of players and staff, excel. I'm really excited to see Wyndon Ho'ohuli, him coming from
Mhm.
Nebraska.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He could be the next great linebacker, a tradition of great linebackers. Looking forward to him as well. This was just a really nice conversation. Not only we talking about the team, but getting different perspectives, reminiscing on some of the things we enjoyed. And I've been to Levi Stadium and I've been to the Oakland Coliseum. And I live in Vegas, so I've driven past the Allegiant so many times. And Aloha Stadium, it was just this random metal, rusty, beautiful piece of paradise that had boards with food on it, like the numbers and stuff from like 1996, right? And the food was not even that good, and everyone was hammered by start of the game, and Dippin' Dots is always around, and there's that random Papa John's that was like placed inside
Right.
the stadium, just so many.
750 icy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and
Right.
then everyone
So
trying to get
yeah,
their beer.
I would complain about Aloha Stadium, but damn, I miss it. Miss it like dearly. Like yeah, it really was my second home. Like I grew up in that place.
Yeah, and
Like, it's
yeah.
crazy how much I miss it.
No, I agree. And I was fortunate because I was in attendance for the 2019 Hawaii Bowl, the last ever UH game with fans in Aloha Stadium.
Mhm.
And, that game, as we both know, was an incredible contest. I remember I watched Zach Wilson do a helicopter in the end zone. So that was funny to see him.
Oh yeah.
Right. And obviously the BYU field goal, that was a miss, but it looked like it was a make from my angle. And obviously Nick Martiner showing up within the last couple minutes to make those two crucial catches, the one to put them in the red zone, and obviously the touchdown, and Corey Bethley intercepting Zach Wilson to win the game. And honestly, it sucked because at that point I felt UH was turning up, and then obviously Rolo took the job at Washington State, and it's all history now. And
it's my fault. It's my fault. At that game, before the game, I bought the Rolo shirt. And my wife is like, don't buy that. And I'm like, why not? And she told me don't buy it. And I bought the Rolo shirt and he left.
Yeah, no. And the worst part is that he took Craig Stutzman and Brian Smith and Cervenko, the chief of staff, with him to Washington State. Were you at the 2018 Louisiana Tech Hawaii Bowl game?
No, we didn't go to that one. We had like a family. It was a family dinner that we weren't but yeah. Can I tell one quick story about the last Hawaii Bowl against the BYU?
Go for it.
As we were walking up, we won. I was just screaming at the top of my lungs, and it's like just pure joy, to beat BYU. And like I looked up, and there's a usher. And the usher like looked at me and gave me a high five. And that's my last Aloha Stadium memory, So if you're gonna go out, you might as well beat BYU.
Yeah.
So
that is a great memory. That just shows the ties the program has with the people of Hawaii and how everyone is just invested in the program. And oh man, I just bring back all the memories. I was curious if you're at the Louisiana Tech game. I have a quick story to share before we head off. And that was obviously Hawaii got roped by Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
They took care of business. and it was hard to watch. But I was so confident that Hawaii was going to win that game. And the reason why is because I was in college at that time. And I was back home. I was UNLV. I was back home for a winter break, had tickets with the family and everything like that. So me and my friend, we're young guys and we were looking for things to do. And obviously in Hawaii, after 10 o'clock, the list of things to do goes down. We didn't want to go to the pier. And we didn't want to go eat McDonald's and there's Zippies and nothing like that, right? So we both had the brilliant idea. So let's go to a strip club, right? And we went to Ballerinas, obviously well known in Hawaii. And when we get there, I walk in and I see a bunch, like 3 white dudes and a bunch of African-American men who are in like incredible shape, wearing like Aloha t-shirts. And that's when it hits me. The Louisiana Tech football team is there, right? And this is like a day or so before the game. So I'm thinking, these
so
guys,
it's before the game.
Yeah, so these guys are distracted. These guys are not taking it seriously. Hawaii's gonna rope them. There's no chance. Come game day, obviously that was not the case. So you never know with UH. It's always an up and down roller coaster with them. And I think we've both felt that pain and joy multiple times.
Yeah, I remember looking at my phone under the table and saying, "Good thing we didn't go to the game." Holy smokes! They like jumped all over us. Yeah.
It was close early. I mean, Cole Mcdonald, all respect to him, but he made like one, he was getting hit like 20 times that game. Secondly, he made 2 like back foot chuck it. I mean, Cole Mcdonald was the notorious 6 touchdown 4 interception quarterback.
Yeah.
Just chucked it to triple coverage twice, interceptable. What a time. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. You are the first true fan I've had so far. It's been an absolute joy to exchange stories, talk about the team in general now, then, and I'm like you, I'm looking forward to the season opener against Vanderbilt. Before we head out, is there anything you want to say to your fellow UH fans?
No, thanks for having me on, Brock. I really enjoyed this, and go Bows.
Absolutely, go Bulls. Till next time, everyone.